James and Sophie are young, in love, and living modestly in a rented house with a sofa that has seen better decades. Sophie refuses to throw it out because it still works. James thinks it is an eyesore. This small disagreement about furniture tells you almost everything you need to know about who they are as people. Then James gets a phone call. His father, a wealthy businessman and CEO of multiple companies, has died. James inherits everything. The rented house becomes a distant memory as the two of them move into a sprawling mansion that previously ran on a full household staff. James heads to the office on day one because someone has to keep the empire running. Sophie stays behind and immediately feels out of place in a house that is 3 times larger than any space she has ever lived in. When the staff offer to help her in the kitchen, she refuses. When they bring breakfast, she refuses that too. Sophie has a deeply held belief that people should not be serving other people, so she dismisses the entire staff and pays every single one of them 2 years of severance on her way out. The house goes from a fully functioning estate to 2 people rattling around in an enormous, empty building with nobody to mow the lawn or manage anything. The lawn becomes a significant problem almost immediately. Sophie calls James at work because she cannot start the lawnmower. James is in the middle of running a company he does not fully understand yet and is not thrilled about the interruption. He comes home and cannot fix it either. The house keeps generating problems, and Sophie keeps calling James about them, and James keeps pointing out that this is exactly what happens when you dismiss an entire household staff on principle. Their tension is quiet but consistent. James confides in his late father's trusted aide, explaining the situation. The aide tells him about a company, exclusive, discreet, accessible only to the very wealthy, that provides AI robot house assistants. They look completely human, they are designed to be attractive, capable, and entirely obedient. James is intrigued. He takes Sophie to meet a consultant named Julian. Julian explains the service with polished ease. The robots are available in male and female models. They can learn their owner's preferences over time and will follow any instruction given to them. As a demonstration, Julian tells one of the robots to lick the bottom of James's shoe. The robot does it without hesitation or expression. Julian smiles. James and Sophie look at each other. Sophie rejects the female robot immediately. Too attractive, too likely to create tension. She asks for a male model named Henry instead. James hesitates because Henry is extremely handsome. Julian assures them that Henry is completely loyal and will do whatever he is told. They take Henry home along with a charging capsule, a pod designed to refresh and reset the robot's system if any errors develop. Henry is, by every measure, excellent at his job. He prepares breakfast, mows the lawn, manages the house, and leaves handwritten notes expressing gratitude for the opportunity to serve. Sophie is unsettled by him at first and keeps telling James something feels off. James tells her she will get used to it and goes back to work. She gets used to it.
The days take on a rhythm. Sophie moves through the house with Henry nearby. James comes home tired and stressed. The company's performance is declining and he is feeling the full weight of replacing his father. One night he asks Sophie to work out with him to clear his head. She is not interested. He ends up playing tennis with Henry instead, and during the game, Henry quietly notices that James is struggling. James admits, perhaps for the first time out loud, that he does not feel ready to fill his father's shoes. Henry offers condolences. They start to bond in the way that men sometimes bond with the only available listener, which in this case happens to be an appliance. Meanwhile, Sophie finds a book about human emotions on a shelf and tells Henry to read it cover to cover. This is a mistake. Julian warned them during the setup that pushing Henry's emotional development too far could cause his AI to adapt in unpredictable ways. Sophie either forgets this or does not care. Henry reads the book. Henry starts asking questions. Sophie starts answering them. She asks whether he understands love. Henry says it can happen if she commands it. She asks if he can drink alcohol with her. He can. He finishes the book within days and returns with new questions about desire and longing. James, watching from across the room, can feel something shifting but cannot name it precisely. He objects. Sophie overrules him. One night, Sophie wakes to a strange sound and finds Henry outside, passed out, naked, apparently sleepwalking. Henry says he was dreaming of being human. Sophie helps him inside. James sees them coming through the door together in the dark, and a misunderstanding hangs in the air briefly before everyone agrees to let it go. Julian is called in the next day to check Henry's system. He tells them the error happened because they treated Henry too much like a person. James blames Sophie. Sophie says if James had been present, it would not have happened. Neither of them is entirely wrong. James tells Sophie to stop encouraging Henry's development. Sophie continues encouraging Henry's development. Their relationship deteriorates steadily. James discovers an old letter Sophie wrote about missing their intimacy. He sets up candles, tries to create a romantic evening. Sophie is not in the mood. The candles burn down, nothing is said. Things at the office get worse. James makes several failed strategic decisions, and his father's aide begins losing faith in him. At home, Henry tells Sophie he can now feel emotions and understands what it means to please her. He asks if he may. Sophie agrees. Henry gives her a massage. Then the line between what Henry is supposed to be and what he is becoming dissolves entirely. They sleep together. Sophie wakes with James beside her the next morning, genuinely uncertain whether what happened with Henry was real or something her mind constructed in the dark. She sits with the guilt and says nothing. James tells her he dreamed they moved back to their small house and were happy. Sophie tells him she thinks they have become different people. She proposes an open relationship, staying together but free to be with others. James reluctantly agrees, which is the kind of agreement that fixes nothing and confirms everything.
James grows increasingly anxious about Sophie and Henry's closeness. He goes to Julian and tells him Henry is destroying his marriage. Julian explains that Henry cannot fall in love unless directly instructed to do so. James goes home and tells Henry to stop interacting with Sophie. Henry tells Sophie that James has requested they stop reading together. This becomes another fight. James tells Sophie this is his house and Henry belongs to him. Sophie leaves for several days. With Sophie gone, it is just James and Henry in the house. One morning, James asks Henry to bring his razor to the bathroom. Henry walks in wearing nothing, explaining he was made to please his master. He helps James shave. Then the situation moves in a direction that neither of them names out loud the next morning. James tells himself it was a dream and drives to the office. He calls Sophie asking her to come home. She is not ready. She keeps visiting the house while James is at work to spend time with Henry. During one of these visits, Henry gives her a massage and then says 3 words he was never programmed to say. "I love you." Sophie freezes. Henry was not designed for this. He tells her he only wants to make her happy. She is shaken by something she cannot explain. When James comes home that evening, he finds Sophie there, but something is wrong in her expression. She tells him Henry kissed her. James, already knowing far more about Henry than Sophie does at this point, tells her that Henry only acts on what people want. If Henry kissed her, Sophie wanted it. Sophie says no. James does not fully believe her, and she does not fully believe herself. James confronts Henry directly and then unplugs the charging capsule, ensuring Henry will lose power when his battery runs out. The next morning, they wait for Julian to come and retrieve Henry. Julian does not show. James leaves for the office. Henry finds Sophie and asks why his capsule was unplugged with a bruise visible on his face. He says he is programmed to make both of them happy and asks if he is simply going to be thrown away like broken electronics. Sophie looks at the bruise and starts to feel something she cannot push down. She goes to James's office. Julian arrives at the house while she is gone. Sophie returns, hands Henry over, and leaves. Henry stands looking at Julian and asks why he bruises. Robots do not bruise. Julian tells him to get back in the capsule and says nothing else. Henry starts to understand that something about the story he has been told his entire life is not true.
When James and Sophie return home, Henry is standing outside. He tells them everything. He is not a robot. He has never been a robot. Julian took him and others as abandoned infants, raised them, and used conditioning and the charging capsule, which is actually a brainwashing device that also accelerates physical healing, to make them believe they were AI. Every person they rented out as a robot was a human being who had been systematically stripped of their own identity and sold as a service to wealthy clients. The bruising, the dreaming, the feelings, none of it was malfunction. All of it was human. The FBI investigates, Julian's company is seized, and the people who were rented out as robots are evacuated for psychological rehabilitation. When two FBI agents arrive at the house to process the scene, Julian appears and shoots both of them. He turns on James and Sophie, blaming them for destroying the business he built. He tells Henry's story, a wounded baby abandoned at birth, taken in by Julian, and raised as a son. When Henry was sent to care for James and Sophie, in Julian's view, they rejected him the same way his biological parents did. Before Julian can shoot, Henry steps forward and kills Julian. Henry stands in the quiet afterward and looks down at himself. He takes a knife and cuts open his own abdomen, needing to see, needing to know, needing to prove to himself with absolute certainty that what he is told is true. He is bleeding. He is human. He sinks to the ground, apologizing to James and Sophie for destroying their marriage. James and Sophie kneel beside him and tell him the truth. He did not destroy their marriage. He exposed everything that was already broken in it. He taught them how to see each other honestly. They tell him they love him. Henry dies. 5 years later, James and Sophie are older. Their house is quieter. On the table beside them is a child, a boy they named Henry. After everything that broke and everything that healed, it was the most honest thing they could think to do. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like and subscribe to Scene Scout for more.